Welcome to episode 10 of Running on OCP, where we speak with organizations using open compute in a variety of ways, including end users, software companies, and organizations who align with the OCP tenets. This week, I speak with CIVO, a very fast-growing company based in the UK, running a Kubernetes managed service platform. Mark Boost, who is the CEO of CIVO, has found a way to simplify the Kubernetes experience for developers. And one of the best things about my conversation today with Mark was his appreciation and his ability to both create a community and work within a community. And you'll hear that throughout today's discussion. So I really hope you enjoy this week's episode of Running on OCP with Mark Boost, the CEO of CIVO. So thanks for joining me today, Mark. Really great to have you.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
So I've been looking forward to this conversation quite a bit. You have been very busy. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself. You have a great, interesting background and how you came to evolve into CIVO and your other lines of businesses.
Okay, well, it depends how far you want me to go back, but I guess I'll go right back to maybe when I was a child to start with, and I grew up in an environment around lots of computers. My dad was a computer programmer, had an engineering mind. He was always bringing home computers, and I remember modems and things like that. So quite early, I latched on to that enthusiasm for computers. And I actually set up my own bulletin board before the internet was even really ubiquitous. And that for anyone that remembers bulletin boards, that's when people were able to dial into a single computer, leave a message for other people to collect, or maybe play an online game or download some freeware, that type of thing. So very primitive, almost like the early stage, I guess, of the internet, in some regards. So that's kind of where I started. I got into programming as well, and then eventually, a bit strangely, I pursued a motor racing career for a bit. So digressed into karting, initially go-karting, and worked my way up the various different sort of levels in go-karting, and finished second in the British Championships, before moving on to car racing and various different formulas, working my way up to Formula 3, before unfortunately running out of budget to continue on from that, because it became so expensive. And until you get to the very top level of motorsport, you have to kind of pay your way to get there. So I needed a big sponsor or something like that, and it didn't materialize. So that was the point when I had to step back into working out what I was going to do with my life moving forward. And really, that's when I fell back on the kind of computer experience, and that was the time when the internet was just coming, really into its own. It's about 1999, and I originally set up a web design business, and that evolved into a hosting company called LCN.com. And across a period of about 20 years, I ran LCN, which grew to the fifth largest hosting company in the UK. Managed about 400,000 domain names. And exited that business a couple of years ago, and that's really when CIVO was born, and I really focused on the next level of hosting, which was, I'm sure we'll come on to talk about, but is focused on Kubernetes.
So from high performance go-karting and racing to high performance computing, in a way, it's a great story. Yeah. So this CIVO offering is a managed Kubernetes offering. So in layman's terms, for people in our community that may not be familiar with a managed Kubernetes offering, share with them what it actually is that.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. It is evolving technology, and it's a strange name. A lot of people say, what is Kubernetes? Never heard of it. And it's a Greek word, and it means helmsman or pilot. And really what Kubernetes does is it helps orchestrate and manage containers. So I guess that's where the pilot part comes from, in terms of navigating and managing that infrastructure. And containers is really the new way of doing things. It's been around for a while now, but it's just becoming the new ubiquitous way of managing compute loads. Originally it was servers, physical servers. Then it was virtualization, which abstracted away and allows you to run multiple servers within a server. And now it's containers that still run inside virtual servers, but you're able to run these containers that don't require an operating system to be run for each container. So you don't waste resources running, an operating system that's going to soak those up. So it's a lot more efficient. There's a lot of other benefits as well in terms of developers and the way they can deploy into those very easily and kind of rinse and repeat in some ways as well. So, and Kubernetes sits on top of that and is the orchestration platform or software that helps scale, keep it resilient, auto, if anything kind of, falls over, it's got the automation there to auto launch other containers and things like that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. And then how did you come up with the name CIVO, by the way? And what does it mean?
I wish there was a story behind that, really, but from my history in LCM, which was provided domain names and all the hosting, I always bought up various domain names that I liked and to have to use for future projects. And I just came across that name and I just kept it for years. I just liked the sound of it. I always like short domain names. They have a good sort of vanity effect to them. And then was really looking for something to use it for, and just like the sound of it. So there's nothing more than that, really, to be honest.
I like it too. I like short domain names as well. So now there are a lot of Kubernetes services out there, a lot of people building services and offerings around Kubernetes. What makes CIVO unique or different in most cases?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think one of the first things I would say is that we're in this multi-cloud world now, and we're not saying we are the perfect use case for everyone. And I think there's different providers do things well in their own way. Where we've tried to carve out our niche is in the developer experience. It's about the simplicity, the agility, the speed, and also the efficiency in terms of resource usage, which helps lower the cost as well. There's a whole big sort of simplicity element to our business, and that's always been the case for all the companies that I've always run. That's been in our DNA right from the first company I started, and I don't think anyone wants complexity in their life. And so if we can make things easier and that developer experience quicker, then developers can develop quicker, deploy quicker, and actually build applications, in a lot faster way. So it's a lot about that ease of use and predictability as well in terms of billing, which I think we're probably all fairly aware of. Some large hyperscalers that have very complex billing models. So it comes back again to that simplicity element of knowing what you're going to pay and that kind of stuff.
And the financial predictability has got to be a huge win for these people, the teams with big developers or elasticity around the pricing. Now you have a community around CIVO. So what is that community? And then you also have ambassadors in place. So what's the role of an ambassador and how does someone become an ambassador for CIVO?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we first started the company, we founded the company, we wanted to be very open and very transparent in the way we run our business. I think you can, if you go to our website, you can read a lot about our tech, how it works. We've got videos as well. We walk through on the command line of how we install things, how we build things. So there's that real openness to the way we work, and we felt that we wanted to bring our users into that journey with us. So community for us was absolutely key to helping us drive the business in the way that we wanted to be open and give back as well. And as part of our beta, we ran a beta for about 18 months. We attracted 4,000 beta users, and they helped shape that product. And it was really, really surprising and humbling to see how much effort people would go to support us and help us build features, help us with bug reports, and they would write tutorials for us, and so much amazing feedback that really gave us even more ambition to kind of build everything around that community. And that's where we came up with the ideas of ambassadors as well, and that happened organically. People within our beta testers kind of just jumped out at us, and you could see they loved what we were doing. So we said, well, why don't you become an ambassador? And it's on an invite only basis. So it gave us that opportunity to approach people, and they become these brand advocates, and they help support the journey. And we give back to them by giving them early access to features before we put them out there. We've got a few other perks, and they get some nice clothing and mugs and hoodies and all that kind of stuff as well. Nice. So it's it's a two-way thing, as a part of our community. But yeah, it's just amazing the support that we've had, and we certainly want to be true to that as we grow as well. And you see companies that maybe start like that, but then maybe in 5 years' time, when private equity money starts to come in, or they IPO or something, they lose that DNA, and we really want to stay true to where we came from and that community focus.
So 4,000 beta testers. Now, what is the timeline there? So from the time that you started to the time that you were getting all this feedback, what is the span of that time? Is it 12 months? Is it 18, 2 years, 6 months?
Yeah, it's about 18 months, just over 18 months of we were in beta, and we didn't have a set plan really of how long we'd be in beta, but it was such a good experience of collecting so much feedback from people. I mean, one of the areas that we've got within our website is a suggestions area, where users can go in there, they can make suggestions for features. This is not bug reports or issues. This is more about the features that they want us to build. And then other users can come in and vote on those features. And we've promised to develop, there's a top 5 that kind of, they climb their way up to the top 5, say, and they're what we call our hot features. And we promise to develop those hot features. And as they get developed, obviously new ones then come up. So we want to build what our users really want CIVO to be, but at the same time we've got some of our own ideas, and what we've got to make sure as well, people don't know sometimes what they want. Maybe this hasn't been invented yet, so I think that we've got some of our own features and products as well that we'll be launching, but certainly we'll always have that community aspect, and we will always promise to develop things that the people are asking for.
That's a good approach, the hybrid of community-driven roadmap plus the things that you think would benefit the community itself. You've got, you have this focus on the developer experience as one of the core principles of CIVO. Have you always aligned with open source and community principles in your other businesses, or is this really the first business where you've seen the power of open source communities?
We have, to a certain degree, in some of the previous businesses. We certainly obviously used open source software. I think most companies do nowadays, or even prior to that. But I think we decided very early on with CIVO. Unfortunately, I've done quite well out of businesses in the past, and CIVO for me is my chance to really give back as well. And so that's why we've built this kind of very open nature, and we want to contribute back to open source projects. We've got a few things in the pipeline that are going to be open source soon. We've already got an open source marketplace which has loads of apps, about 60 or 70 apps on there that people can use. And there's some plans for expanding that marketplace to be used in other ways as well. So yeah, I guess it's the first time we've done it in a big way where we're giving back more the other way, and I think that's really important for us in our journey, and that if we're going to be community focused, it's again that two-way street in that regard.
Yeah, one of the things I really like, Mark, is the way that you're positioning this, giving it back and contributing back at the beginning, and not just after you have reached a certain level within the business, then you start to reevaluate your business model. You're starting off from the beginning about giving back to a community. Speaking of communities and moving over more toward your infrastructure, you work with a couple of our more exciting OCP members, Vespertech and KO, in launching the service here in the UK. What role have they played in supporting your rollout and your launch?
Yeah, they've been really important, the role that they've played. I mean, there's been two obviously key providers, Vespertech, who are the system integrator that we work with, and then KO Data is the UK data center where we host our UK region. And we actually met, we introduced to KO about 3 or 4 years ago, because we've got a bit of a journey in data centers ourselves, and we were looking for a new data center partner. We were introduced to KO Data before their data center was even built, and then we entered into a bit of a partnership with them. But subsequently, that's really where we got introduced to open computer OCP technologies, because they had a big focus from the get-go on OCP, and that's really also where we got introduced to Vespertech through KO, through the actual CEO at the time. I said, you should go and talk to Vespertech. And now, yeah, they've both become key suppliers to us. Vespertech is great because our model is that we're going to deploy into various data centers around the world. We've already done that in the US. We've got a Indian region going live in the month, and we've got a Frankfurt region going live in about 3 months. And we don't have plans to have local staff near the data center. So the model that Vespertech offer us is where they build everything completely offsite. It's all racked and stacked and ready to go, and then shipped and flown over to a data center. And the OCP kit being even the fact that it comes on wheels and can just be wheeled straight through the data center, plugged into into position, and plugged in. And the way we've got a software-defined nature to the way we work, it kind of phones home and self-installs. We don't even pre-seed the actual region with any software. It literally gets built, shipped, and then the software self-installs once it kind of phones home. And that whole kind of rinse and repeat really lends itself nicely to the way OCP works and the way we want to work as well. So that's been great. And the way that KO are able to support OCP in terms of the design of the data center, the 2-ton lifts, the high ceilings, the high doorways, the wide corridors, to be able to support a rack being dropped and then moved straight through the data center and in position. We did that recently, and from hitting the loading bay to getting it into position, it's like 10 minutes. It's dead easy.
Yeah, it's great to have those facilities and the partners working with you that have optimized their business model around OCP. Has to make your life a lot easier. Now, the KO data center is in the innovation corridor within the UK. Did that have an impact on where you were thinking about having the launch, or did that not play a role?
It did a little bit. I mean, we're local to that area anyway, our business. So, it was a good choice. We've always been a believer in buying local where we can, supporting local companies and that kind of thing. So they're only about 10-15 miles away from where our offices were, so that was very convenient. But we've always known and been involved in the kind of that corridor anyway. So it's always great to be involved with that kind of Cambridge corridor, because there's so much innovation happening. We're an innovative company as well. There's so much knowledge sharing and support available. There's been some great introductions that KO Data themselves have made for us into other communities within the bioscience and machine learning and that kind of stuff that's coming out of Cambridge. So it's certainly great to be involved in that, but it was also part of the decision that it was we were local as well, so it kind of ticked all the boxes, I guess.
Man, that's good. So I know that you're relatively early on the deployment of these OCP solutions, but any early comments on Capex or OpEx that you're seeing across these deployments?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, one of the things we've bought from a lot of kind of tier 1 vendors, usual suspects that a lot of companies have bought from over the years. And the first thing I'd say is that the procurement process is so much simpler, and that's a hat off as well, I guess, to Vespertech. but you're not really getting into this whole kind of difficult, drawn out deal reg process, to negotiate pricing, and you have to jump through a million hoops to get a good price and all that kind of stuff. So it was very easy to kind of procure things quickly, get a good price straight away, in terms of not jumping through these hoops. And when we compared it to traditional vendors that we had used, it was competitive as well. It was definitely more competitive than what we were used to. So that was great. So it's going to cost us a bit less.
Yeah.
We're all software defined anyway. That's the way we work. So it works perfectly with that. We're not really interested in any kind of funky stuff, that extra software that people might try and sell us or package up or whatever. We don't want that. Our model really is about if something breaks, we replace it. So we don't really want to buy all these expensive warranties and things like that traditionally tier ones would sell us and lock us into, and that vendor lock in. So certainly from that side, it's low aggravation, it's less cost and less ongoing cost in that side. And then you've got the efficiency of the OCP kit as well, which the design itself with the way it works, and not having power supplies in every server and having the central power units and things like that has definitely reduced the power that we use, and obviously the costs that come with that, and obviously that's great in terms of sustainability, which is part of our our ethics as well. So all round it just ticked so many boxes for us. It was a very obvious choice, and I'm glad we found it, and we're introduced by KO to Vespertech.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the efficiency piece, because a lot of people think that, well, it's open source designs, it'll just be cheaper hardware, but it really is that sustainability angle that we focus on as well on all the designs to make sure that we're using less, both on the embodied energy, the server itself weighs less and it runs a great deal more efficient. So what is next for CIVO? You talked about the expansion in India, Frankfurt. What else is on the agenda for CIVO?
Yeah, so there's more regions to come, definitely, and there's more over and above that as well. So we could have another 5 coming on, probably not by the end of the year, but certainly by early next year. So then I won't name the locations yet because they're not finalized.
Sure.
So we're going to end up with around about 10 regions within the sort of next 12 months period. And in terms of our kind of roadmap on features and products and things like that, we're looking at a private region product. So it doesn't have to be on our public cloud. So people can almost buy CIVO and put it in their own data center and have a compute or Kubernetes scale cluster ready to go, resilient, and they can use and consume themselves if they prefer that more sort of private approach. So we've got quite a lot of interest around that. With a few new products that we're planning on launching. So we've got a PaaS service, platform as a service offering that we're building, and that's just abstracting away from Kubernetes. So it's just a bit easier for developers that just kind of want to fire and forget, have an application, have an easy deployment, and then trust us to kind of scale and manage that. So for certain use cases, that's very good. Some people want more control and they want to have access to all the, the Kubernetes and the control planes and everything to manage it themselves. And others just want to fire and forget, and in that regard. So there's a PaaS product coming. GPU as a service, where we've got in proof of concept at the moment for GPU as a service as well. So we're evaluating all the OCP options that relate to that at the moment, which is great. And then there's a few sort of smaller features as well, like database as a service, object storage that we plan to launch as well. So yeah, there's a number of things in the fire, as they say. Yeah.
Very busy roadmap. Yeah, looking forward to working with your team in the future here to see what else we can help support your growth. Mark, I really appreciate it. You're one of the shining success stories that we have here in Europe, and have just really enjoyed watching how you've used the community both on the software side as well as all the way down to the hardware side. So I really appreciate the time. I'll be back with my takeaways from a conversation with Mark in just a minute. A couple of my favorite takeaways from my conversation with Mark. The first is around community. When they released their beta into the market, they had over 4,000 people download, and start to provide feedback. And Mark was genuinely surprised and encouraged by the power of a community like that. And the second is when they were deploying open compute hardware, he used the terms low aggravation. Low aggravation in the procurement process, working with Vesper and avoiding vendor lock-in using open designs, and low aggravation in the deployment of the racks in an OCP-ready facility like KO Data. So since our conversation, CIVO has taken another step toward open communities by becoming an OCP member. So we'd like to welcome Mark and the entire team at CIVO to the OCP community and look forward to supporting their growth in the coming months and years. So I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Mark Boost and the team at CIVO, and look forward to more episodes of Running on OCP in the coming weeks. Thanks for listening. Cheers.